I wasn't going to do a video about the vice presidential debate, except I found one thing that I find really interesting. So I was going to drop a here's the one thing and make the video only a minute long, but then I did some research and watched some other shit and read like 5 different fact checkers. I'm still going to be brief though. Here it is. So for Pence questions dodged, there was really, I really didn't, I know there was one that stuck in my head. Dodged a question about what they would do if the president died in office. That was just a dumb question. What would you do if the president died in office? Well, it's pretty fucking simple. The vice president becomes president. That doesn't really warrant an answer. That was a stupid fucking question. And was she trying to elicit who would Pence, if becoming president, choose as vice president? Because that's how it works. The president then chooses vice president, and Congress and Senate have to vote on that. They were seeking, I mean, that's kind of a really a moot fucking, I mean, not moot point, but I mean, it's a small thing. It's not really, I mean, what are you looking for in that answer? It's kind of a dumb question. So he didn't directly answer it. I didn't feel that it warranted an answer. I thought it was more telling that they asked that and then related it and read the same, because, you know, that lady had different questions for them sometimes and had same questions for them sometimes. I think it was more telling that she asked that same question to Kamala Harris. It's kind of like saying that, yeah, so a lot of us pretty much expect Joe Biden to die on office or whatever. So what are you going to do? Oh, well, you know, she didn't answer that question at all. It's weird. Comments on the moderator. She was decent. She wasn't completely anti-Trump, as so many people are, but there were a couple of times where she cut Pence short of his 2 minutes by a few seconds, and several times that I noticed that she got into her interrupting, saying, okay, Mr. Vice President, okay, Mr. as he was making a very valid point, and he was seconds away from wrapping up. I'd have to get the timer back out and see, did she do that at 1:50 and actually try to beat him out of 10 seconds because she was blocking, or did she do that at 2 minutes and 2 seconds and actually was, I don't know. One of the big questions that Harris dodged was the one about the Supreme Court. You know, my opinion on this is really a lack of education, because I just assumed that the court had a fixed amount of justices. I didn't realize that a president, upon throwing a hissy fit because he doesn't like the way that the court rules on something, could then just add as many judges as they want to try to sway future rulings, to correct something that they don't like that happened one time, or that just, it's just such a fucking, that's such a ridiculous thing to me that that's even an option. It ought to be put in fucking stone that the Supreme Court will have a fixed amount of judges. I can't even imagine why you would need more. You got 9. 9 seems like a lot. Usually the Supreme Courts are like 3 or fucking 5. It's always not a number, obviously, so you can't have a tie. It's usually a smaller number. I just don't know what to say about that. I can't believe that a president has the option to even do that. Harris lucked out on the crime and punishment and law and order type of questions. They didn't ask any of those. Pence did not push that hard. Now, my opinion is that Pence was kind of like the man he was like the dog on the chain in this. He issued a lot of restraint because he wanted to counter Trump. It's fine. I mean, listen, Pence is the kind of guy where when he has a speech, 5 minutes is tops for me, usually too, because I don't like slow talkers. They're both fucking slow talkers. I can't stand it. He was very easy to listen to in this debate because these were, you know, little bursts of that. You could tell that his demeanor was getting under Harris's skin. So that was probably all strategy. And you know, my end grade for this is probably going to be that they both fucking bullshitted a little bit. So it didn't this debate did absolutely nothing to influence people to change their vote. It may have swayed some independent voters, but if it didn't sway them Pence's way, then I'm not sure that they were actually independent voters. I don't know what they were watching. Harris's demeanor, I've heard it said several times, you know, women are judged unfairly in politics, especially at this level, because the way they look and present themselves and the way they talk, they so often get attacked for being too aggressive and not ladylike enough, or too what this and that. I'll tell you what I saw, dude. I saw this girl say several times, excuse me, I'm talking, which the liberals really liked, but you want to know what that was? I'll tell you exactly what that was. That was her thinking that she was a prosecutor in a courtroom and that she held sway over the person's fate. That she knew how fucking important she was in this courtroom holding a person's fucking fate in their hand. And she enjoyed that power. So nothing about that appealed to me. Nothing about that I think is a positive thing. Nothing. And not even as the liberal part of me don't even think that was just that was terrible. It's unfortunate that there was a fly. The fly fucked a lot of shit up. I saw the memes coming the second that goddamn fly landed on his head. He could have given the cure for cancer or a recipe for world peace or solved the oldest question in the universe, like what's the meaning of life? And if done while that fly was on his head, not a person would have heard it. I read through these fact checkers, and it's hard enough that the media is so fucking biased, while out the other side of their mouth claiming that they're fucking independent media and that they're not biased. It's so obvious that they are. It's even harder when the fact checkers are biased, because I'm reading some of these fact checks and some of them are solid, giving props to either side. But sometimes their fact checkers, when it's half true, and their explanation, it was a fucking weasel. It was an endorsement, and it leave a little bit to be desired in the category of honesty. Here's what it was for me. The overall winner of the debate was Pence. He got under Kay Harris's skin. Now, going along with demeanor, another thing that people don't like to have mentioned when it's a female debater or candidate, whatever, is, man, did she get emotional? A couple of times she got herself emotional once or twice, and he got her emotional by his continued calmness, which is probably part of the plan. I mean, she didn't go flying off the handle and start screaming, but you could see that she was giving emotional responses to questions, and I can't imagine that voters really like that. I'm a voter, right? And in my opinion, I like emotional responses in the sense that they show passion. I've said this before about other stuff. I don't like overtly emotional responses for the sake of being emotional, or because you don't have anything substantive to say, so you're being emotional to try to mask that up. Several times during this debate that I was like, man, it looks like Kamala Harris is lying, but she's really talking intelligently. One last point about the Supreme Court. So he asks about the court, and her response was very well written response that I'm sure her team fucking scrambled together with the fucking Abraham Lincoln didn't nominate anybody. And I read the fact check on that, and that said that it's true that happened, but that his reason for doing so, he never said it was because of the reason that she said. He never declared the reason at all. And you got to remember, when you're comparing 1865, 1863, whatever, it wouldn't have been 3, it would have been 4, or 1860, whatever year his re-election was. There's no social media. There's just slow paper media. So transparency, all the people even being aware that this other justice died, how many people even fucking knew that right away? The people in New York who had newspapers and shit like that. For the most part, man, people didn't even know that right away. Completely different situation. Overall, Harris seemed like she was lying. There were several times where I'm like, man, she's lying. There were a couple of times where I'm like, man, she seems like she's lying, because this doesn't seem like the other shit I've heard, but she's selling it pretty good. A couple of times she didn't sell it so good. It was when they got to that second to last segment, maybe for the reader question or submitted question from the student order, and Donald Trump refused to denounce white supremacy. I watched him do it again, blah, blah, blah. Man, I already went over this. I researched that extensively for a video that I just put out about Trump and white supremacy. And the fact that the next day he did a press conference and again said very fucking clearly and in detail, I'm not endorsing white supremacists, I'm not endorsing racists, I don't agree with that, etc. aside from the fact that that was said the very next day, because people told him, listen, they wanted more clarity and they wanted you to actually say the words, I denounce, right? So he did that. He's done that so many times in the past. And the fact that this debate just happened a week ago, everybody in the fucking country had been talking about that. So it's like I'm the only person, and a lot of people know that. So for her to use that as a talking point and say, I'm like, okay, that's your fucking tell. There's her tell right there. It's like going blue with humor when somebody doesn't normally do that, and then it's like they got nothing left, so they just start saying swear words or making potty jokes. It was like that. Like she had fucking nothing. She just threw out there, you're a racist. Holy crap. Garbage. She's garbage. Don't like her. She's like Hillary Clinton. Got some appeal, but I'm not sure she has the kind of appeal that they need to win the election. Now, she's not going to lose it for them. She didn't fuck up that bad. In fact, she could have stood on stage and said the dumbest shit, and she still wouldn't fuck up the election for them, because there are people who are just going to vote no matter what. They're still talking about that small piece in the middle that at least claims they don't know which way they're going to go. Simple wrap up. The economy was a lot better under Trump, but it's been a lot better the last couple of years than it was before that. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine who owns a small business, and he put it this way. He said, in the days of Obama, especially towards the middle and the end, so the majority of when his policy would have set in, he said people were just lucky to get a job for the most part. He says now, he goes like, I need some employees and I need to pay about $10 an hour. He says, and I can't fucking find anybody, not anybody good. He says, I keep interviewing person after person after person, but aside from the ones that I wouldn't hire because they don't do what I want, he says a lot of these people, like, they're like, I can get $10 an hour, I can get 15 doing this, I can get 20, because I can't pay 15 or 20 for what I need. They're holding their nose up at the idea because it's not enough money per hour. And he said that happens because there are more jobs out there, and because the market becomes where you can afford to shop around where you want to work, what you want to do, because there are more opportunities. He goes like under the Obama thing, he goes, I could find 50 people who would have fought for the $10 an hour. I said, yeah, that is a good summary. So I'm going to mention that later. And one last thing, and I'm done, is that about the fucking dancing around the Supreme Court question. She answered in that interesting way, saying the story about Lincoln, and then she goes, let's talk about backing the court. You've appointed however many fucking federal and circuit judges, and they've all been white. Here's the big glaring omission, all right? So I see Trump as an independent candidate. I see Trump as reinventing the Republican Party. I will link this into the thing about Bernal later and his opinions, but I know black conservatives have been around for a long time, but there are not very many of them, sparse, and a lot of them written off as Uncle Toms, and almost easy enough to fall into the trap of believing that because there are so few of them and because the media just repeats them. There is a huge new movement of black conservatives in the last few years. In my opinion, this is because Trump has reinvented what it means to be a conservative and a Republican. Amidst these new black conservatives, who are commenters on YouTube and in some cases politicians, right? Eventually, there will be more conservative black judges. How many was there previous to Trump taking office? And if they existed, were they this new breed of conservative, or were they, the Bush type conservatives, the typical clinical cookie cutter Republicans, right? Which Trump wouldn't necessarily endorse anyways. There is a new rising of people, black American people, that are going toward what Trump brings. So give it a few years. As more of those people come out of the woodwork and go, fuck it, I'm going to be conservative, I'm going to admit them, because there'll be more conservatives who are black in all kinds of positions, including, eventually, judges. So that was not even a fair shot by Harris, but it's not going to be like that. from this point going forward. It's changing. Anybody who would have an understanding of that and who would look into that would actually see she kind of shoots herself in the foot by saying that. Last thing real quick. New developing. I don't like to do videos about shit that 100 other people have talked about unless I got something new to add. So I did this video and I did add something new, but I also kind of rehashed it. I'm sorry. Here's something though that I haven't seen any commentary on yet. A group of what they're calling militia tried to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Really nothing you can say about that ain't going to get you in trouble. But I did briefly look at who they were, and they might have even been a white supremacist group. I don't know. I don't say that easily like the media does. But you know what? Their goal was to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, who, man, she is fucking way finer than I remember from the last time I saw her picture. I mean, she's a fucking turd. That's a conundrum. In any event, they were going to kidnap her. Not sure what they were planning on doing with her. They put a lot of work and man hours into this. They had a lot of FBI hours into this. And my only takeaway here, I guess, is why the fuck were they looking at them in the first place? This is a very serious question to ask yourself. What did these guys do? Because they had a secret meat spot, no electronics. When they did communicate, they used a complete code language. They used encrypted platforms to communicate when they weren't in person. They just said that the FBI managed to caught them, put in a ton of fucking hours, and had, quote, hundreds of officers across the state of Michigan with the FBI to foil this plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, which was supposed to happen right around the time of the elections. So again, not stating any opinion, not endorsing it, not saying anything, but why were they looking at these guys? Why were they looking at them? What did they do? It doesn't sound like they did anything wrong in their planning. It doesn't look like they did anything sloppy. It sounds to me like the government was just fucking monitoring. I didn't publish this last night. I would have had to make a correction. So here's the update on that. There was a guy who was an FBI informant that was in the group. What we don't know yet is why that person, how they got in there, why they were in there. And my original question and issue with this entire thing still stands, which is why were they watching them? They didn't do anything that would have got them caught had it not been for this person giving the information. And were they being watched simply because they were a militia group and they did not have aligning political opinions? Because that is supposed to be illegal. Why were they infiltrated in the first place? Now, what could have happened is the guy could have joined up and then been like, I got some shit on my record, or I got some debt, or whatever the fucking thing is, and this is valuable enough information, I can sell this to the government in exchange for immunity, or in exchange for some money, or exchange for whatever the fuck his problem was, to be made to be completely gone away. That's possible. The person just was a traitor to everybody. That's possible. But when they say FBI informant, usually that's going to mean that was an FBI agent that just infiltrated them. And if so, that's an issue, because it should be an issue for everybody, because why would they infiltrate them before they had any evidence they were doing anything wrong? You understand what I'm saying? All right, that's it.